Okay, and there's a few of you joining at different times, so I'm going to crack on with the webinar today. It's going to be about half an hour, so not too much time, but it's going to be about navigating the festive season. Just a few house rules. If you can keep yourself on mute and your video turned off, just so there's no interruptions. I've got my notes over here, that's why I keep looking down as well. So in this webinar, I'm going to share with you exactly how I navigate the festive season without going into January feeling guilty, feeling just overwhelmed, and feeling like I'm far away from my wellness goals. So it's going to be structured on the most common questions that I get asked, but also some of the questions I used to worry about myself. So I'm going to give you as much clarity as I can. And if you have any questions, note them down because at the end, we're going to go through them together. Okay, so before we start, the biggest thing with staying on track, especially at this time of year when, let's face it, you might be seeing family, you might be seeing people and like co-workers and friends that you just not, maybe you don't want to spend all of your time with, but maybe you have to because of work. So a lot of this in some of us can bring up anxiety and can make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm just going to share with you 3 exercises that really help with lowering your cortisol. So the first one, if you can do it with me, that would be amazing, is I'm going to ask you just to close your eyes and we're going to do a box breath exercise. So just listen to my voice, close your eyes. You're going to inhale for 4. You're going to hold for 4. You're going to exhale for 4. Hold for 4. And then inhale. So let's repeat it all together. So inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. That is called a box breath exercise. And if you're feeling very overwhelmed, you're feeling a little bit anxious, that's a fantastic exercise to regulate your breathing again. I'm going to give you one more breath exercise. And with this one, it's a little bit, especially if you're feeling anxious, okay, you're going to inhale for 4, and then when you exhale, so inhale through your nose, I want you to exhale through your mouth for a count of 6. So don't worry there's someone around you and you're making a bit of a sound as you exhale, not to worry. Let's do it together. So inhale for 4, exhale for 6 out your mouth. And again, inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time. Inhale for 4. And exhale for 6. Let it all out. And now gently open your eyes for me and just check in with yourself how you're feeling. Those are 2 really simple exercises that, like I said, when you're feeling a little bit anxious, a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit stressed with work, or maybe co-workers or family members are just rattling you up the wrong way, those are 2 fantastic exercises. And just one more, because what tends to happen over this festive period, a lot of us are doing jobs. So we're either on our phone all the time, computers, wrapping presents, things like that. Just an exercise for your body, for your posture. I'd like you to, if you're sat on the sofa or on a chair, just sit up nice and straight for me. Take both of your hands and just place them behind your ears. And when you inhale, I just want you to slightly lift your chin and tilt your head back and open up your chest. So you're opening up all the muscles along your chest. And as you exhale, bring your elbows together and bring your chin towards your chest. So you should feel a lovely stretch at the back of your shoulders. And then one more time, inhale, open your elbows out wide, open up that chest. Exhale and bring your elbows together, round out your back, round out your spine. Okay, so I'll leave it there, but like I said, you've got 3 exercises there where if you just need some time to yourself, lock yourself in a bedroom and do those 3 exercises, see how you feel afterwards. They're fantastic for helping with your cortisol. Okay, so let's crack on. So when you're staying on track this festive period, the first thing you need to clarify with yourself or with me is what is your goal? So, for example, if it's fat loss, then write down what that goal is because you are going to struggle to stay on track without knowing where the end point is. Does that make sense? You need to have the clarity to know where you're getting to, and that all starts with where you want to be. So write that down, and that is the key to knowing, okay, how you want to manage this festive period. If it's a case of you just want to maintain your weight, well, then we've got some more, I suppose, leniency. Although compared to someone who wants to lose a lot of weight or lose weight, then we really need to think about planning our social events so that we can achieve the goals and that we don't go into January feeling awful, feeling guilty, and feeling annoyed with ourselves that we haven't stayed on track or that we've let ourselves go. The biggest thing I can share with you when it comes to this is speaking with your coach. So, having a conversation with me, and as much as you can, saying what's coming up ahead and what's coming up in 2 weeks' time so that we can reverse engineer what to do and that you don't go into these events hitting that button of, oh, I don't care. I'm just going to do what I want. That's if we do that over time, that's exactly one way to make January a really hard month. So, the first thing I tend to get, and used to be like this every single holiday season, was I would end up feeling really guilty and ashamed because I would either overeat, my cravings would go through the roof, or I would skip meals. What I would tend to do is then, besides getting into this feeling of guilt trap, I would actually go to the gym and push myself harder. Now, you ladies know that that is not the way to how we achieve fat loss. The gym is how we build muscle and how we get toned. When it comes to dieting, when it comes to improving our hormone balance, 90% of that is what we put into our mouth, what we drink. So that is nutrition. I wish someone told me this many years ago because I could have gone through the festive period a lot more happy instead of thinking I just need to push myself harder and harder in the gym. So the first question I get asked a lot is, how can I enjoy eating out without derailing my wellness goals? This is a three-step strategy to do to answer this question. So, number one is plan ahead. Look at the restaurant that you're going to. Decide what you're having before you go. Now, this doesn't mean that you become a control freak. It means that it takes away that anxiety because you know that whenever we eat out, we're putting ourselves at risk of eating all these oils, these harmful oils that some restaurants, and here's a little tip for you, some restaurants, if they are ethically sourced restaurants, so if they actually care about what they're cooking with, you could say to them, listen, I'm going to have let's just say the sole, the fish or the fillet steak, I'd like it cooked this way, and I'd like all my vegetables to be cooked in butter, or I'd like it to be in an oil that is not a seed oil. You can say that to the restaurant, and if they are a restaurant that is ethically sourced and they care about what foods they're cooking or what methods they're cooking in, they will say to you, of course, we can do that for you. Most restaurants now, with all the different allergies people have or the intolerances, you can ask that and don't be afraid to ask that. So that's a little side tip there. But the first strategy, like I said, is plan ahead. So look at what restaurant you're going to. And if it's a restaurant that you genuinely don't like and you're going with friends and family, speak up, okay? Speak up for yourself. Don't feel like you have to go with the flow. And if you suggest maybe another restaurant that's more in line with your tasting, and it's not only that you're being a food snob, right? It's the fact that you are looking after your health in the long term. So please don't be afraid to step up and say, actually, this restaurant is not aligned with my goals. Can we try a different restaurant? And suggest restaurants. That is a really, really good tip when it comes to planning ahead. Number two in the three-step strategy is eat before you go. Now, those of you that work with me know that I will say to you, never go to a restaurant hungry. It's the biggest thing that a lot of us tend to do when we feel like we need to lose weight is we skip meals, we usually skip lunch, and then we go to the restaurant absolutely starving, which means we eat a starter, main, and a dessert, and then feel like we're not hungry, as in we're still not full, so we just keep eating and drinking. And that's very quickly how we can also add pile on the weight in the long term. But not only that, we know that those oils that most restaurants cook in have a negative effect on our gut lining, on our hormone function. So eat before you go. And another big thing when you're actually at a restaurant, the third step is having a veggie starter. So for a lot of us might have a little bit of a protein shake before we go, or might have a small meal at home before we go. When you go to a restaurant, avoid the bread because it spikes your glucose. Rather go for a veggie starter. If everyone is having a starter and you're having FOMO or you feel of missing out and you're thinking, I need to have something, have a veggie starter. Ask them to grill it or cook it in your choice of oil and eat mindfully. Okay, I know that's easier said than done, but when we guzzle our food in without thinking, we can very quickly not feel satisfied. And there is research to show that it takes between, 5 to even 10 minutes before the brain recognizes that you're full. And that's normally what happens is when we're guzzling food without mindfully eating, by the time we've eaten our meal, we feel like we're still hungry. But if we wait 10 minutes, normally we are full because the brain is recognized and the brain and the gut are talking and they communicate with one another to say, actually, we are full. So the second question is how do I manage portion control during the holiday gatherings? I'm going to give you three practical steps here. This is a big one because I don't know about you, but if there's a buffet style meal out there, it's so tempting to just go for one more, go for one more plate, one go one. And before you know it, you've probably eaten 3 times the amount you would normally eat if someone just gave you a plate of food. So how do you manage it? Number one is have a smaller plate. So if you're at a buffet style type meal, what I'd recommend doing is not getting one of those big plates. Just go for a smaller plate and fill the plate up with one serving. One serving eaten mindfully. Now, what needs to be on that plate? Always make sure there is a decent amount of vegetables. So if that's your plate, you can see that I've got a picture of a plate in the middle there. Make two fists with your hands. That's about the amount of vegetables that should be on your plate. One fist of protein, one fist of carbs. So on your plate, you've got two fists of veg, one protein, and one carbs. Have that in your consciousness when you're eating, and it will ensure that, again, you're not overeating and you're also eating the right amount of nutrients in your plate of food. So, just to reiterate, those three practical steps are have a smaller plate, keep to one serving, and the one plate rule in terms of having your protein, your veg, and your carbs. The next question. How do I manage a consistent workout routine during the holiday season? Now, this can be tricky, especially for those of you that are going to the gym. Some gyms have certain opening hours and some gyms are also closed. So, guess what the first thing is? Plan ahead, schedule ahead. It sounds monotonous, it sounds very simple, but a lot of us don't do it because we normally overlook the simple things because we think it's more tricky. The best thing you can do is plan your week ahead. So most gyms will have closing hours on maybe Boxing Day, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day, or some of them might have early hours opening for maybe like 3, 4 hours on Christmas Eve. They'll probably be closed Christmas Day. If they're not, I don't know what gym they are. And then Boxing Day as well might be closed. So what you do in those days when you want to still move because you might be eating more because you're around more food, around more family, is move more. So go for more walks. um Make sure that you start your day with a walk. And what I really recommend, and this is also backed up by science, especially the work of Jessie Inchcape, the glucose goddess, it is fundamental that once you've eaten, go for a walk. So if you're having a big Christmas dinner, enjoy it, be with the family. Afterwards, why not the whole family go for just a 10-15 minute stroll? Move your body. The worst thing we can do for indigestion and feeling very lethargic is just sit down and do absolutely nothing. It doesn't have to be a strenuous walk, and just be a little mooch. But that's the key thing, is scheduling ahead, move your body, And then remember that nutrition fuels your body. So, and this is goes back to the mindset that I used to have many years ago, which was I eat a lot, I have to go to the gym and burn it off. That's not how it works, okay? A lot of us will think, okay, if I eat more, I need to gym more. You don't have to do that at all. We all know it's about the quality of nutrition that you're getting in, but also, it's really, really important to understand that nutrition is fuel. And by that, I mean, when you're scared of overeating or thinking how much is too much, this is important to check in with your body. So, once you've had your meal, if you're having, say, over Christmas dinner, a three-course meal, have your veggie starter, take a break. Yeah, maybe go for a walk, maybe do something in the house, have your main meal. The same thing applies. Move your body, go for a walk. Maybe have a couple of hours in between the main meal and the Christmas pudding. It's totally up to you and your schedule, but the key thing I want you to focus on here is don't get hung up about you must do gym training around what you're eating. It's not to do with that at all. We all know the gym training is to do with building muscle, which takes a long period of time to do. The key thing I would say is move your body. So loads of walking is fundamental, and that's quite simple to do, right? And nice to do with the family as well. So the second or the fourth question is how to handle stress and not let others influence my eating habits. So this is a biggie, and personally, it was something I even had to go through recently, being on a trip with the family in Cape Town, where my eating habits have changed a lot over the years. And even though my family knows that, it's still the questions I'll get asked, like, "Why are you doing that?" Or "Come on, just don't worry about it for today," or don't be like that, or don't, why are you so strict, or something like that. And it's fascinating because we feel like we have to validate ourselves and explain why we are choosing to eat foods that are just better quality, which I think is mind-blowing because at the end of the day, it's your health and your wealth at the end of the day. So how to handle this? Number one is have your goal in mind. Like I said to you in the start of this presentation, the clearer you are on your goal, the bigger your driving force will be. If you don't know where you want to be, you will get influenced and you will allow others to influence you. But when you have that goal in mind, it's like no matter what anyone says to you or their opinions or their thoughts onto yours, you almost let them bounce off you because you're like, you know what, I'm focused on my goal, and you know I know it's working because I've got my coach, I've got my plan. So it allows that kind of it allows their thoughts to kind of bounce off you and not be absorbed by you. I really recommend what I said to you is a non-negotiable, which for me is like that little breathing exercise I did with you in the beginning of this presentation. So once I've got my clarity, I know what I want, and this is what I did when I recently went on holiday with the family. I know my goal, and having 3 meals a day with the family, they still have these triggers. So what I did was a non-negotiable was every single morning I did my breath exercise. And guess what? It was just the one I shared with you today. It's a simple exercise. Set a timer on your phone for 3 minutes. I did it every single day. It was my non-negotiable. It helped me cope with the external stresses. And number three, to handle the stress, is become selfish. Do something for yourself every single day. And especially during the holiday period where we can so easily get wrapped up in work, busy client schedules, we're running around from job to job, we're running around seeing family, seeing friends. We can very easily start to move away or get distracted from what is important to us. So I really can't stress that enough is focus on your goal every single day. What is your goal? Set your non-negotiable and do something for yourself. So for me, when my gym starts to close over the Christmas period, what I will do is alongside my walking is I do my 15 to 20 minutes of yoga every single day. I tell my partner that, I tell my family that. I'll say, listen, during this time, I'm just going to go and do my yoga for this amount of time. Please give me the space. Lock the door. It's my space. It's 15 minutes of your 24 hours in a day. That is absolutely nothing. And I promise you, the snowball effect of that will really keep you on goal or keep you focused for your goal and not be distracted by all the noise of the celebrations. I think it's five, how to avoid the all or nothing mindset. Now, this is so easy to, or used to be very easy for me, especially when I was starting my journey into optimizing my hormones. It was those moments of how am I going to stop this behavior of hitting that button of just stuff it. I've had two biscuits, I've had three, I might as well have the entire pack. Okay, now for starters, I have got that entire webinar that I did on eating behaviors, so I'd really recommend re-watching that one. If you haven't received it, send me a message and I'll send it through to you. But that is a really good webinar, it goes into a lot into the eating habits, into our eating mindset when it comes to food. But the first thing into avoiding the all or nothing mindset is focus on your behavior, not the behavior of others. And this goes again into when you're especially around family and it's ample amount of Christmas pie out or mince pies or flapjacks or gingerbread men or just there's abundance amount in family events and you might have your one and think right I'm done, or you might do what I always teach you, which is coating your carbs. So if you're going to have a gingerbread biscuit or something sweet, you cover it with some yogurt so that it's coating your carbs and doesn't spike your glucose. And once you've had that, if you're full, move away from the food and do something else, because you know yourself, being clarity and having clarity and focus on your goals, that when you focus on your behavior, other people's behavior doesn't matter. Okay. Another big thing is I want to stress to you, please don't feel guilty if you do end up hitting that overindulged moment and you just embrace being with family. I I have like spent 3 weeks in Cape Town and there was definitely 4 or 5 days out of those 3 weeks where it was a really joyous occasion. It was just so lovely to be around people who hadn't seen in years, and we had an awesome time. We had some drinks, we had a really good time. Now, I did not feel guilty after that because 80% of the time I was eating consistent and I was eating in line with my goals. So when those 20% of moments happened, I allowed myself to embrace the moment. And yes, it meant that I was eating foods that had seed oils in them. And yes, I felt the difference the day after. But the key is instead of punishing myself and feeling guilty and skipping the meals and dieting and thinking, oh, I need to yo-yo diet again and push myself in the gym, I smiled and recognized I'm feeling bloated today, but I know why. And when we know why and we understand what effect these foods have on our gut microbiome, on our hormones, we can then start to move away from the all or nothing mindset and also give yourself some compassion when it comes to these days in our life that means that we will end up overindulging, but it's because we want to, not because we're allowing others to influence us. I hope that all makes sense. Now, how do you manage progress during the holiday season? This really, really comes down to what your goal is. So, again, like I said, if your goal is fat loss, if you're going to have one or two of those overindulging days, that's not going to hinder your progress. I promise you, if you've been consistent 80 to 90% of the time, those 2 days are not going to make any difference to you. You might just feel a bit lethargic the next day, but again, you know why. So I always come back to saying to manage your progress is to have the clarity in your goal, plan ahead, work with myself to ensure that every single day that we have in December that you have clarity in what you're doing. Another big thing is you don't have to say yes to everything, okay? This is this big FOMO thing. I actually had it at the gym this morning where I was talking to a lovely girl and she was saying, oh, Nika, are you going to do this massive High Rocks event on the weekend, next weekend? You know, it's like 7K of running. And I just looked at her and I said, no. And she was saying, but are you not like afraid of missing out? She was like, it's gonna be a really good event. And I was like, no, because I really understand that running that amount of time, being and someone who's not fit to run at the moment, I'll just be injuring myself. So I don't have the fear of missing out because it's not in line with my goals. And that's what we need to keep coming back to is if you're someone who has a big social calendar and you look at your calendar and going, how am I going to say no? Or how can I fit all this in and still want to lose my fat, or I still want to have my fat loss goal? The key is look at your diary and see if there's any way that you can group some of these events together, or decide and say to yourself, do I really want to go, or am I just afraid of missing out? Okay. Am I really wanting to go to this event? Am I going to get the fulfillment from going to this event? And if it is, go, enjoy yourself. But if it's not, and if you're not that fussed, just say no. You get more empowerment, you get more self fulfillment if it's something that you don't want to go to by saying no. How to balance social events, staying on track with nutrition. So I've touched on this a little bit, but I've got three things to say to here is eat during the day. Please don't skip meals. Skip meals is really not good. Your body goes into storing mode, goes into survival mode. The key is stay on track. So if you have a big meal that you're going to, we have a late lunch, high protein, high savory lunch, breakfast with at least kind of 30 to 35 grams of protein. We then have like a snack, depending on what time you're going out, a protein shake, or something or a smaller meal that's high in protein and fiber, and then you go and have your meal. The key thing as well, if you're someone who loves a takeaway, and if you're like, Nika, when I go out and I have a few drinks, I come back and I have a takeaway, here's a tip. Plan a snack meal. So plan it so you know what's in it, you can control it, you know the it's not cooked in any harmful oils, and have it in the fridge. So if you do go out and you have a couple of drinks, you come home and your snack is ready, it's waiting for you. That is a really good tip as well. And another one, number three, is hydrate. Ladies, please hydrate. It is so easy to keep drinking and keep going. My rule is have a glass of wine or gin or whatever, then I have a pint of water. That's a lot of water to take in. You feel full, it slows you down. But not only that, to slow you down to consume less alcohol, the next day you will feel a lot better within yourself. You might be a little bit bloated because of the effects of alcohol. You might be a little bit lethargic, but if you're drinking water, you will recover a hell of a lot quicker than just keep on drinking. So this leads in nicely into how I manage alcohol intake without feeling guilty. So the honest answer here is we all have a different adaptation to alcohol. So for example, myself, I bloat when I drink things like beer or bubbles. For me personally, doesn't work well with me. So what I tend to do is I stick to a spirit, either like a gin, and or I will just have my red wine because I love red wine. You need to know what works for you, but if you're wanting to know like what calories, so basically the lighter, clearer the drink, the less the calories. So for example, gin and vodka have the less calories in them. Your cocktails, they're good, they're sweet, but they're full of sugars. And anything like wine, you're looking at something between like 250 calories up to 300, depending on the wine. So the key thing I would do here when I'm having whatever drink is, as I've said to you in the previous slide, is I drink a lot of water. Even before I start drinking alcohol, I'll have at least 2.5 liters of water that day. I am going to the toilet more, obviously, so don't wear a onesie, but I'm always making sure that I'm hydrated before I start drinking, and the next day I feel so much better for it. What realistic goals should I set to stay on track? Now, for me, no matter what your goal is, I have four non-negotiables that helps me get through the holiday season. So if you want to write these down, please do. My four daily targets, no matter what's happening, whether I'm going out, whether I'm seeing family, whether I'm cooking the meal, whatever it is, these are my four non-negotiables to stay on track. Number one is I move my body. As I said to you, I do some form of yoga, I go for a walk, or if the gym's open, I'll go to the gym. The second thing is I will do some self-compassion. So whether that is my breathing exercise, for me, actually, the yoga is a bit of both. It gives me that sense of fulfillment. I feel better afterwards. My mind feels clearer. So I combine those. Water, hydrate, and number four is sleep. If you do these four things over the holiday period, ladies, you are going to feel so much better, not only within yourself from managing your nutrition better because you'll have clearer mental focus because you're sleeping and you're hydrating and you're doing something for yourself. This will really, really help you get through the holiday season. As I've said before and a few times, a lot of us just tend to put ourselves second or third or fourth on the list. And I can't stress enough doing something for yourself every single day, even if you're time poor and you've got 4 minutes, do that breath exercise I did in the beginning. It's a game changer in the long run. So, just to, really focus here is what not to do. You guys know this by now. What not to do with the festive period is starve yourself, have one meal a day, drink your calories. And now this I must laugh at because I was with friends in Africa and they are also into their fitness, a bit more from a aesthetic perspective, not from the hormone perspective. And they said to me, "Oh, I drink my calories instead of eating them." So if they're out for a meal, they will drink or eat. So for them, it was drinking, alcohol as opposed to eating. Please don't do that. The nutritional value in alcohol compared to a whole food is just, there's no comparison, and you'll feel so much worse the next day and has such a detrimental effect on your body. Please don't drink your calories. Drink them with a whole food meal. And the fourth thing not to do is panic and be impulsive. You've got me. Come and talk to me. Don't panic about any event. The best thing we're going to do is clarify the goal, plan ahead, and make sure that we are eating that day to optimize our energy, so our brain energy and our body energy, and we're not going to go into it panicking. This is how I am going to manage my Christmas day, just to be open and transparent. The first thing is I know what my goal is. I've got my coach. I know what my goal is. I'm clear on it. And then the second thing is I do my non-negotiables. As I've said to you guys, the key thing for me is in the morning for me is doing my yoga. I know that my partner knows that, my family knows that. I do my yoga. That's my non-negotiable. So, got my goal. I do my non-negotiable. I'm going to be hosting this year. So for me, I'm going to make sure that I have a good protein breakfast. It's probably going to be like an egg omelette, something like that, something that's a bit lower in calories but really high in protein. I'm going to have that maybe with some sourdough or maybe even on some toast, or maybe just a spinach omelette with egg whites. That will be my start. That'll be my breakfast. I'm going to be drinking 2 liters of water before midday, and I'm going to have my starter veggie before we have our main meal, which will be a three-course meal. I'm going to have my veggie starter, which for me is so simple. So I've got some carrots, slice them up into like one carrot, slice it up into tiny bits. I'm going to put some beans in it, some broad beans. Again, slice them up. Might even put some olives in there. I'm then just going to put in my apple cider vinegar, mix it round. That's my starter. That makes sure that my glucose doesn't spike. Then I'm going to go and enjoy my main meal. I'm obviously not counting calories. I'm genuinely enjoying what the food in front of me. I'm taking the one meal plate rule going forward. So one big dish of my Christmas dinner, as in what's on the plate, and then I'll be having the pudding as well. The biggest thing I would say to you is in between my meals, and luckily because I'm hosting, I can plan this. I'm going to have a good break after the main where I'm going to go for just a 20-minute walk. Hopefully, it's not raining, and come back and I'm going to have the dessert. So this is exactly what I'm going to be doing for my Christmas dinner. Yes, I will be drinking. I'm going to be having probably a couple of glasses of wine. I'm going to enjoy my Christmas day because I know that in the long run I'll be eating more and I'll probably feel a bit full, but I'm not going to let that hamper the Boxing Day and the next day either. If you have any questions, or if you're, maybe you have 7 social events in a row and you need help, you know where I am. Come to me and let's work on this together. The greatest gift you can give to yourself is the gift of health. And I always remind myself of this, especially when I'm getting a lot of, say, comments or people questioning me saying, "Oh, why are you doing that?" Because in the long run, I know I feel better. And at the end of the day, what matters to me is how I'm feeling from the inside, not what other people think of me. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do have any questions, please give me a shout. Thank you.